Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Alice and this is English with Alice B, where you can come to learn English in a clear and simple way without the stress. So today I'm back with another true crime video. I'll remind you quickly, the point of these true crime videos is to give my students something else to listen to that isn't just grammar and vocabulary. Today I'm using a new microphone, so if the sound is terrible, then this is why. Hopefully everything will go smoothly, will work smoothly. So today's case is a complicated case. It's a tragic case. It really makes you consider toxic relationships, unhealthy relationships, and where they end, where they go, and how they get there. Often in these relationships, for both men and women, they can find it difficult to know how to escape, how to get out, and how to change their situation. And I think the lesson of today's story is that if you don't find a healthy way to leave it, the consequences can be horrific. So let's look at the case of today and let's talk English. So first of all, let's take a look at today's vocabulary bank. Don't forget, you can also watch my video, Vocabulary for True Crime, for a more general list of the words and phrases typically used in true crime videos. Remember, these are the words and phrases that you are going to see in this video, so it may help to know what they mean before we start. Feel free to pause, take notes or screenshots, or you can even return to this page after you've watched the video. Today we are going to be talking about Sarah Boone, or the so-called suitcase murderer. On February 24, 2020, a frantic call was made to 911. According to Sarah, the night before, so February 23, she and her boyfriend, Jorge Torres, who we're going to look at a little bit later, they had been at home together. She said they had been drinking and joking around, playing games, doing puzzles together, when he decided to get inside a suitcase. It was all fun and games. Sarah claims that after Jorge gets inside the suitcase, she fell asleep. She says she doesn't know what happened. She had too much to drink, so she went upstairs and she fell asleep. And when she came back downstairs the morning after, Jorge was still inside the suitcase, and of course, at this point, he wasn't breathing and hadn't been breathing all night.
Tell me exactly what happened there.
My boyfriend and I were playing last night, and I put him in his case and we were playing, and like kind of hide and seek kind of thing. So I fell asleep, and I woke up, and he was dead in the suitcase. So I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened.
As we will see today, there is so much more to this story than Sarah's version. So we'll begin by talking about the two people involved in this incident, and we'll begin with Sarah Boone, the perpetrator. Sarah Boone was born Sarah Paulson on October 10, 1977 in Atlanta. But when she was very young, her and her family moved all together to Orlando in Florida. Unfortunately, there's very little information about her childhood. What we do know about Sarah is that she had two brothers, and that from a young age, she had some significant losses in her life. During her final year of high school, her father passed away, and then a few years later, she also lost her mother. As a result, she was without either parent from a young age. It's also been reported that her brothers were not exactly close by. One of her brothers worked for the US Coast Guard, so he was often away from home working, he wasn't around. And her other brother was actually already imprisoned. So by the age of 16, 17, Sarah has no parents, no family around her, no clear supportive system. It's around this age that she meets the man that would later become her husband, Brian Boone. In fact, in August 2004, she ends up marrying this man, and 6 years later, they have a child together. They have a baby boy. This is, of course, where she takes the name Boone. At the beginning, this seemed like a really nice, peaceful life for Sarah, away from the tragedies that she had experienced all those years before. Brian was employed and provided stability to Sarah's life. He was caring as a father and as a husband. The family lived together in Orlando, and this is where their young son grew up. Now, there aren't many reports about their early life together. What we do know is that after a few years, Sarah started to develop a problem with alcohol. Brian reports that Sarah's behavior was starting to change. It seemed that her mental health was slowly deteriorating. She would become angry a lot quicker than usual, and because of this, they would argue more. She would lose her temper quicker and quicker, and the more she drank, the worse this would get. Sarah could become aggressive, and eventually this escalated to physical violence. There are no reports that Sarah was aggressive or violent with her son, but with Brian, yes. Sarah's problem with alcohol is something that gets worse and worse with time. She starts spending less time at home because she's often in bars, in local bars. And when she does come home, of course, she's drunk. And this is when they would have those horrible arguments. This was a situation that Brian understood he couldn't fix. And eventually, Brian files for divorce, and he cites her use of alcohol as one of his main reasons. So after the divorce is finalized, Sarah moves out of the family home. She moves into her own apartment, close to where Brian lives, so they can share custody of the son. And it seems that they actually had a really civil relationship. Sarah was not employed and didn't look for a job after she was divorced. She would rely totally on the child support money that Brian would pay her. And in fact, if she needed more money, she would ask Brian, and it seems that Brian would always help her out on top of the child support that he was already giving. It seems that Brian never stops loving Sarah. He always cares about her. I get the impression he's quite a decent man, actually, who wanted to be present in her life. He understood the relationship couldn't work, but she's the mother of his child, she's his ex-wife, and he is very supportive and present for her, both financially and emotionally. According to reports from the people around Sarah, it was during this period when she lived alone that her problem with alcohol only got worse. And in fact, she was spending more and more time in bars. And this is how we meet Jorge Torres. Sarah meets Jorge in a local bar not too far from her apartment. He was from Philadelphia originally, but had moved to Orlando in Florida. At the time he met Sarah, he was a divorced father of 3 children. He was in and out of employment himself. In fact, according to his Facebook, his last employment was at a supermarket, and unfortunately this ended because the store actually closed. Jorge was under a little bit of pressure from his ex-wife because he needed to pay child support, obviously having 3 children. And his brothers later confirmed that Jorge also had a problem with alcohol. He had a long-standing, so an issue that lasted many years. He had a long-standing problem with alcohol. So Sarah and Jorge meet and they start dating around January of 2017. Sarah is reported as saying she was so attracted to this man. She couldn't believe that someone like him would even be interested in someone like her. Their relationship develops quickly, and after 3 months, Jorge actually moves in with Sarah, and his name is officially put on the lease, so the contract that Sarah has for her apartment. From reports and interviews with family and friends, their relationship was described as rocky, so unstable. It seems like they argued a lot. It seems like they weren't always happy. Alcohol, of course, played a big part in this. Both of them had issues with alcohol. They would drink together, and they would drink a lot. They would start arguing, and often these arguments would lead to physical altercations, and they would start verbally and physically abusing each other. The manager of Sarah's apartment in an interview said that she received many complaints from the neighbors. They were playing music at ridiculous hours in the early morning. They were arguing, shouting and screaming. It seemed that they were breaking things on the floor. They would hear loud thuds. So a thud is like as if furniture was being broken and thrown downstairs. The manager herself witnessed Sarah and Jorge drunk or intoxicated, sometimes at 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. And in fact, she even has to have a meeting with Sarah in which she says, if you don't change this behavior, I will have to evict you. So to evict someone is to legally remove them from the property that they are living in. The situation between Sarah and Jorge obviously doesn't improve, and in fact it escalates and the police get involved. In July 2018, Sarah calls 911 reporting Jorge for kicking her in the eye. Apparently, Sarah had asked an unknown man at a bar for a cigarette. When Jorge saw this interaction, he became jealous. They went home and started to argue, and Jorge dragged her up the stairs and was kicking her in the face and had kicked her in the eye. Jorge's version of this story is that it was Sarah attacking him, and he only kicked her to sort of defend himself, to get her away from him. In June 2019, Sarah calls 911 a second time. This time she claims that Jorge was hitting her in her face, her arms, her legs, and when the police arrive, they can actually see visible signs on her face, red marks and scratches on her body. Jorge is taken to the police station and he is told he cannot go near Sarah again and they cannot live together. In August 2019, Sarah makes yet another call to 911, this time claiming that while she was sleeping, Jorge came into her bedroom, started screaming and shouting, verbally abusing her, and that this led to physical violence as well. He started attacking her and punching her in the face. Sarah is reported as saying, "I'm fed up with being hit." When you are fed up, you are tired of a certain person, situation, environment, you cannot tolerate it anymore. In the end, Jorge was arrested 4 times for reports of domestic violence against Sarah, and Sarah had been arrested once for reports of domestic violence against Jorge. So we can see this is a toxic relationship. They were stuck in this cycle of drinking, fighting, getting physical with each other, going to the police, and then Sarah would often bail Jorge out of prison, and then it would just continue and continue. And it's like this that we arrive to February 23, 2020. Sarah's next door neighbor declared in court that this particular evening he could hear Sarah and Jorge arguing. This was not unusual. This was actually a regular occurrence. But what was unusual is a particular noise he heard. He says that between 10:30 and 11 p.m., he hears a loud thud. So that sound. He said it was as if something had fallen down the stairs, and in fact the noise was so loud that his walls were shaking, so he could feel the vibrations of this sound. According to Sarah's testimony, they were having a nice night together, they were drinking, they were playing games and doing puzzles together, when one of them decided it would be funny to play hide and seek. What would be even funnier than these 2 adults playing hide and seek together would be, apparently, if Jorge climbs into the suitcase. She says, "We were laughing and joking. We both thought it would be funny for him to get into the case." Jorge was a very small man. In fact, I believe he weighed around 47 kilograms at the time of his death. So it was easy for him to climb inside this suitcase. Perhaps that was the reason it was so funny. So Jorge climbs into the case. Sarah zips the case closed and they're laughing. This is so funny. She claims that having had too much to drink, it was at this point that she decided to go upstairs and she fell asleep. She thinks that Jorge will free himself and he will come up to bed when he wants to. But he doesn't. And Sarah wakes up the next day, so on February 24, and finds Jorge still in the suitcase. And of course now he is dead.
You guys were playing last night, drinking a bottle of wine.
Putting puzzles together, doing artwork.
Doing puzzles, artwork.
I had a bottle of wine and then decided to play hide and seek.
Mm-hmm.
So
What time was that? Do you remember?
I mean, I know that I was in bed probably by 12:30.
Okay.
Well, I went upstairs at least, and I fell asleep.
Okay.
forgetting that he was
So
in
you
the
guys were
suitcase.
playing the hide and go
Yes.
seek. And at some point you put him in the suitcase?
No, he got in the suitcase. So he thought it would be funny to be put in the suitcase. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to joke with you and I'll zip you up and make him, you know, squirm a little bit, whatever it is. But then I fell asleep. I fell asleep.
Where was the suitcase?
Right where it is.
In it, right down there?
Yes.
You zipped him in there?
Yes.
Thought it would be funny, a little
It
joke?
was. We both were laughing about it.
Okay.
And then I fell asleep.
Where did you fall asleep at?
Upstairs.
In your bedroom?
Yes.
Okay.
Totally forgetting that he was in the suitcase still.
Okay. And then you came back downstairs?
This morning? Or this afternoon, yes, when I got up.
What time?
12:30-ish. I was awake, but I totally forgot that he was in the suitcase. I just totally forgot.
So you began to do CPR on him?
Yes. Yes.
About what time this morning did you start doing that CPR?
No, it was the afternoon. It was afternoon because I was awake, but then I finally decided to come downstairs at like 12:30-ish, whatever it is, and I was like, I forgot he was in the suitcase, and he wasn't moving, nothing was happening, so I unzipped him, took him out and started doing CPR on him.
She doesn't know what happened. Could have been a heart attack, could have been something else. I don't know what happened. I left him there and he was dead in the morning when I found him. Now, the police obviously have to understand more. So Sarah, being the only one in the house, of course, is brought in for questioning. She also willingly gives her phone to the police. So the interrogation begins and Sarah is sticking to her story. They were having a nice night together. They were playing games and they both thought it would be hilarious if Jorge climbs inside this suitcase. Sarah falls asleep. She forgets. We know the story. Now, remember before I said that Sarah gave her phone to the police? Well, what the police find on her phone is a piece of very important, very horrible video evidence. Sarah may have forgotten that she took this video. Remember, in English, we take photos, we take videos. The verb that we use is to take. In the video, you can see the suitcase, you can hear Jorge inside, you can hear Sarah talking, obviously, from outside, and it doesn't look like they are playing. Jorge is not laughing. In fact, he can be heard pleading with Sarah, so asking her, begging her. He says, Sarah, Sarah, I can't breathe. Meanwhile, so at the same time, you can hear Sarah's voice. You know, she's holding the phone, she's recording the incident, and she's laughing. She's taunting him, so she's teasing him. So she's saying things that are maybe designed to upset him. She says things like, this is what it feels like when you choke me. This is what you get for cheating on me. The video is really difficult to watch because you hear his voice over these few minutes kind of getting weaker and weaker, as if, he's really struggling to breathe, and in fact, as if he's dying. Now, I will insert just a couple of seconds of this video. I will not play the whole thing because it's just... It's horrible to watch. It's horrible to hear this man's voice. And if you really want to find the video online, you can absolutely find it. There are thousands of versions of this video.
For everything you've done to me.
Sarah.
For everything you've done to me.
Sarah. Sarah. Sarah.
Stupid.
Sarah. Seriously.
Yeah, that's when you do when you choke me.
Sarah. Sarah, I can't breathe, babe.
That's on you.
Sarah, I can't breathe.
It's on you.
Sarah.
Sarah is shown the video and she continues to argue that, he could have got out if he wanted to. I didn't do this intentionally. We were just playing. We were just laughing. We both thought it would be funny. She then tries to argue that, okay, I closed the case, he was inside, but I left a hole. I left a hole that was big enough for Jorge to put fingers through and, open the suitcase by himself. He had a choice. He could have got out of the suitcase if he wanted to.
Show me where you can see any fingers coming out, because there's the end.
And his head's right here.
Mm-hmm.
So going like this, rather than going all the way up, it's like this.
But why is he saying I can't breathe, and why is he pushing on it as if he can't get out?
And it doesn't show a hole.
There's no hole. There's no fingers. I don't see his fingers. There's no hole.
I don't know what you want me to tell you. Like, I don't know, like, what you want me to tell you.
When I went to bed, I was expecting him to open the suitcase himself and join me later. We learn from these videos that Sarah is quite arrogant. She is quite a narcissist. She has this very high opinion of herself. She repeats many times that this was not intentional. It was not malicious. It was not intentional.
I did not intentionally kill him.
You're laughing in the beginning, and then in the end, it sounds kind of like a...
No, it's not malicious. It's not malicious.
Then what is that?
But now that we have the video evidence, and given the phrases that she was saying, the words that she was saying to Jorge while he was inside the suitcase, the police can arrest her.
Okay.
All right, do me a favor, stand up. I need you to turn around, face the wall, put your hands behind your back. Do you have anything in your pockets that I should know about?
No.
Okay.
Why is this happening?
Because George is dead.
Not intentionally.
We understand that.
He's still dead.
Well, we don't
Someone
really
needs to
understand
call
that.
Ryan, please.
Okay.
Or can I not make a phone call?
You'll be able to make a phone call when we get you down to the jail.
So
You'll
why
be
is this
afforded-
happening? So this was a trick.
No, it's not
No,
a trick.
not
How's
a
it a
trick.
trick? I'm in here to ask you to explain a few things to us, and
You were read your rights.
your response to everything was basically, I didn't do it.
Intentionally.
I have to go through that.
Doesn't matter. It's still there. Do me a favor. Have a seat.
Sarah was charged with second-degree murder for the killing of Jorge, and she was held in Orange County. She was entitled, as is everyone, to a court-appointed lawyer. So this is, if you don't have money, if you don't have enough money to buy your own lawyer, the courts have to give you one. You have the right to be represented. Now, Sarah, as we've seen, is a very interesting character, and in fact, she's given a lawyer from the court, and in fact, she's given 8. Why so many? Because each time she was given a lawyer, there was a difficulty in their relationship, there were problems, and they decided they could not work with her anymore, and they would leave. Let me just repeat that. Sarah was so difficult to work with that 8 lawyers withdrew from her case. They reported behavior such as Sarah would call them at 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. You know, she expected them to be at her disposal when she needed them, whenever she needed them. They also reported that if they told her or if they did something that she didn't like, she would become verbally abusive, telling them they were incompetent and other interesting names. Eventually, she did find a lawyer that was willing to work with her, Mr. James Owen. After delays with her trial caused by, there was a Hurricane Milton, and COVID-19, Sarah's trial officially begins on August 14, 2024. The defense, so the team representing Sarah, claimed that Sarah suffered from battered woman syndrome. What is this exactly? This is a pattern of physical and psychological symptoms that come from going through years of abuse from a partner. It's actually classified as a form of trauma, as a form of PTSD, so post-traumatic stress disorder. Sarah's defense is that after years of being abused by Jorge, after years of being in this toxic relationship, she had developed a severe form of anxiety, a severe form of this trauma, and that she couldn't be held entirely responsible for her actions on the night of February 23rd. She was acting in self-defense. She argued that she was terrified that if she let him out the case, he would attack her, and actually that this is the night that he would kill her. This I think was a very good strategy from her team. Battered woman syndrome is very real. It's a very real type of trauma. It was undeniable that they had had an abusive relationship, a very toxic relationship. There were so many police reports about the abuse that Sarah had received from Jorge, all those times that she had called 911. Her abuse and her suffering was well documented. And in fact, again, friends and family around them said it did often seem like Sarah was afraid of Jorge. The prosecution, so the team against Sarah, argued instead that Sarah intentionally trapped Jorge in this suitcase as a form of revenge and as a form of punishment. And while yes, Sarah had suffered abuse at the hands of Jorge, and she was a victim in many other ways, that this was not an act of self-defense. This was an act of punishment. This can be demonstrated in the videos that she took, in the words that she's saying, this is for cheating on me. This is what it feels like when you choke me. The jury was shown the videos. They were shown these horrible videos. And they were also shown the actual suitcase in which Jorge died. And on October 25, 2024, the jury decides that Sarah is guilty of second-degree murder. Sarah was sentenced to life in the Florida Department of Corrections. During her sentencing, Sarah was allowed to read a 28-page letter that she had written to the judge, to Jorge's family, to the jury, to everyone, really. Now, I won't read the whole letter. It is very long. In fact, she spent 20 minutes reading this to court, but I'll give you a quick summary. In this letter, she talks about what it's like to be a victim of abuse and that the most powerful thing that she can do is to forgive. So she says to the judge, to the jury, to Jorge, and to Jorge's family, I forgive you. I forgive you. She goes on to say that she had been unfairly judged, unfairly criticized, and that she had been the real victim of Jorge for many years. She forgives herself for falling in love with a monster, and she writes, I am not a murderer, I am a survivor. In the letter, she does also apologize to Jorge's family, in particular his daughters. She says that, I know how much he meant to you, and she does say that she's sorry for their loss and for what they've had to go through. She also says that she would like to spend her time in jail getting closer to God and learning more about forgiveness and forgiving everybody who has done her wrong in this whole process. So today, guys, obviously Sarah is in prison. She is serving her life sentence in the Florida Department of Corrections. This case is just crazy for so many reasons, but the character of Sarah Boone, who she is as a person, just makes this all the more incredible. She's very arrogant, and she clearly believes that she is the number one victim and that everybody around her is trying to make her fall down. I really recommend, if you have the time and if you have the patience, watching some of these interrogation videos. They're really interesting. She is just a character. She is just a character, and she's always had this high opinion of herself, that she always excelled in everything, and that she is, in fact, victim number one. We can say, of course, with zero doubts that Sarah was, of course, a victim. She was in an abusive relationship. She was in a very toxic relationship, but there were so many other ways that Sarah could have dealt with this. I know it's not as easy to say she should have just left, but I feel there are some steps between staying in a relationship like that and trapping someone in a suitcase. She had a very supportive ex-husband who seemed to stand by her side no matter what. So her actions, of course, are not justified. I hope you found this case interesting. I hope it wasn't too disturbing. But with true crime, often these cases can be a little bit uncomfortable to talk about. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.